Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives, as we spend another couple hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever discovered in my over 46 years of doing therapy. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages that says Start Here, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've used to great effect for over 16 years to remove the negative emotions in my life and to be able to convert any experience of a negative emotion into part of the infallible guidance system that we've all been gifted with. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. You can download it. It's a PDF file. Just click it and download it. Don't even have to get put on a mailing list. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. If you do that, as we hope people will, you can also download a whole host of audio files of shows like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process or asked clarifying questions about it or given testimonials about the powerfully positive impact they've had from applying those tools in their life. And then give us a call with your comments or your questions. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And we appreciate when people do that. If you call that number and press 1, it will let me know you want to ask a question. Today is the 97th day of the year, and we're working through the Course in Miracles workbook lessons. And today's lesson is very simply, I am spirit. The commentary says, today's idea identifies you with your one self, capital S self, your true self, the holy offspring of creation. And creation rests in you. Creation, the mind of which has been restored to sanity. You are the spirit lovingly endowed with all of creation's love and peace and joy. You are the spirit which completes itself and shares its function as creator. It is with you always as you are with it. You are inseparably bound to that which created you and all of its creations. Today we try to bring reality still closer to your mind. And Michael Rice would clarify that to say, in his work he would use the word actuality, closer to your mind. Each time you practice, awareness is brought a little nearer at least. Sometimes 1,000 years or more are saved. The minutes which you give are multiplied over and over. For the miracle makes use of time, and yet the miracle is not ruled by time. Salvation is a miracle, the first and the last. The first that is the last, for it is only one. You are the spirit in whose mind abides the miracle in which all time stands still. The miracle in which a minute spent in using these ideas becomes a time that has no limit and that has no end. Give then these minutes willingly and count on the creation that promised to lay timelessness beside these minutes. Creation will offer all its strength to every little effort that you make. Give creation the minutes it needs today to help you understand with it that you are in the Spirit. You are the Spirit that abides in all of creation and that calls through its voice to every living thing and offers its insight to everyone who asks. Creation replaces error with the simple truth. The Holy Spirit will be glad to take 5 minutes of each hour from your hands and carry them around this aching world where pain and misery appear to rule. It will not overlook one open mind that will accept the healing gifts they bring, and it will carry them and lay them everywhere He knows they will be welcome. And they will increase in healing power each time someone accepts them as His thoughts and uses them to heal. So the 5 minutes that you give to the Holy Spirit will increase in healing power each time someone accepts them as their own thoughts and uses them to heal. Thus will each gift to creation be multiplied 1,000-fold and tens of thousands more. And when it is returned to you, it will surpass in might the little gift you gave, as much as does the radiance of the sun outshine the tiny gleam of a firefly. The steady brilliance of this light remains and leads you out of darkness. Begin these happy exercises with the words the Holy Spirit speaks to you, and let them echo around the world through the Holy Spirit. Spirit am I, a holy offspring of creation, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole, free to forgive and free to save the world. Expressed through you, the Holy Spirit will accept this gift that you received of Him, increase its power, and give it back to you. Offer each practice period today gladly, and it will speak to you, reminding you that you are Spirit, one with all of creation and all of your brothers and sisters and yourself. Listen for this assurance every time you speak the words, and let creation tell your mind that they are true. Use them against temptation and escape its sorry consequences if you yield to the belief that you are something else. Holy Spirit gives you peace today. Receive these words and offer them back to creation. Spirit am I, offspring of creation, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole, free to forgive and free to save the world. And it's not Glennon Doyle's book. Pam Grout's book, The Course in Miracles Experiment, Lesson 97, is titled, Take the Gift, Damn It. She quotes Glenda Green as saying, accepting the idea there were going to be no problems was a greater adjustment than one might think. Pam writes, the standard paradigm goes something like this. Life is hard. It requires a constant influx of dinero, and if I'm lucky, knock on wood, and nothing goes wrong, I might be able to enjoy my final years with a brief retirement. The Course in Miracles says it's all utter nonsense, and that my search for legal tender, for convenience, and even spiritual enlightenment is a big fat waste of time. Do you really think that you're here to create a brand? To make Doritos or buy inflatable swimming pools? Do you really think tracking your market share and your 401k and your days until the weekend is a valuable pursuit? Lesson 97 encourages us to enjoy Spirit's gift, the gift that's already here, the gift that requires not one iota of effort from you or me. Picture the dude as Oprah. Picture creation as Oprah. You get a gift, and you get a gift, and you get a gift, and you get a gift. You get this gift even if you screw up, even if you never get off your couch, even if you're constantly devising evil plans to get back at your college adversary. It's life, baby, and it's here coursing through your veins, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So forget your feeble fears, your efforts to amass fortunes and to collect things. Forget you even have a body. Just rest in the vibrancy of spirit that lives and moves and animates your oh-so-holy self. 5 minutes every hour, remind yourself, I am spirit. So that's our Course in Miracles workbook lesson for today and Pam Grout's commentary on it. And we have 47 minutes left to talk. And boy, I would imagine there's some talking to be done. We had our support group last night, and there was plenty of discussion and emotion and reaction and contention. And we have tools to help ourselves deal with that. Not everybody's willing at all times to pick up those tools and apply them, but we do have tools that can help us dismantle our upset. And I am open for discussion about that. If you don't know what those tools are, please go to whyagain.com or .org, WHYAGAIN.org, and click on that red and white bullseye and get to that page and find out what that tool is and put it to use in your life. I had occasion to use the tools quite a bit in the past couple weeks because there's been a lot of emotions swirling around for a lot of people related to the holidays, related to coronavirus restrictions, related to interactions with family around the holidays. And my work, the more I do it, keeps revealing to me that there is a level of, I'd have to say, peace, for want of a better word, that goes with being willing to tune into my internal guidance system more and more. And even though it can be hidden at times, even though it can be disguised as a worksheet process or a targeted journaling session, the fact of the matter is all of this work is about helping anybody who's willing to do this work get better and better acquainted with their own internal guidance system. And that's the whole piece of, that's the whole thing in a nutshell, that it isn't, well, Dr. Tim, tell me, how do I do this, or what should I do in this situation? It's, Dr. Tim, what's that tool I can use to get in touch with my own inner knowing so that I can ask what I should do in this situation and be told, and feel it and know it and have confidence when I act from it. That's what this work is about. And if truth be told, there are I would say a tiny percentage of of people on the planet that are actually living their lives from their own internal guidance system. And so every little bit of help that we can be to you or anybody else in tapping into your own guidance system, we want to do that. That's the primary purpose of our being here. The tools are just the mean to the end. The fact of living from the I don't know mind is as a beginning point, and then learning to ask for the internal guidance. That's what this work is about. And if that makes sense to you and you already know how to use these tools, congratulations. Please pass them along to others. If that's not quite making sense to you, give us a call, 563-999-3581, and we'll have a conversation about how you might use these tools to clear the way, because your internal guidance system is already there, it's already functioning beautifully, and most of the time when we're not accessing it and living our lives from it, it's because either we've never been introduced to that as a possibility, we don't even know it's there, or we've got so much trauma and so much false conditioning from our family and our culture that sits in the way that we can't see. We don't have direct conscious awareness of or access to our internal knowing because of the garbage that's in the way. And what would the garbage be? Well, the garbage might be that I have a plan, I have a hope that life would be different than it is in one way or another. I want somebody to let their guard down and be a good friend to me, let me in at an intimate level in a friendship. And every time I approach that person is guarded and wants to keep it at a distant or a professional level. And I may not even be aware of how much that is resonating upset in me. I may not even be aware of the fact that I'm holding such a strong hope for connection at a deeper level with that person. And if I use the tools when I have that kind of a situation, I might actually uncover pain, fear, sadness, disappointment, sense of failure that I downloaded quite a bit earlier in my life when I wanted somebody for a long time ago to let me in, to connect with me at an intimate level. And if I don't have the awareness that everything that I experience as a negative emotion or a tension today is rooted inside myself, then I won't even go looking for it. I will just assume, I'm feeling this way because this person won't join me in an intimate relationship, or this person won't connect with me as a true friend. And as long as I keep believing that that's what's causing my upset, I've created a prison for myself, locked it, and thrown away the key. That's just, I can count on that just like I can count on my heart beating in the next moment. This is just the way life is. If I'm having an upset, any kind of discomfort, tension, negative emotion, in that moment it's being created inside my energy system. And one of the gifts of this work is that the worksheet process itself has me cancel everything I think I want, because the culture that I'm living in, for the most part, probably if you were raised on this continent, the family that you were raised in conditioned you to believe that the upset and negative emotions you're experiencing are caused by events on the outside, and that things should be a certain way. The problem here is that my shoulds are nothing more than a prison for me. I love the line from City of Angels where the angel has come down to heaven and he's from heaven, and he's there to guide a soul back up to heaven when the body dies. And the soul he's there to guide back to heaven is in the body of a person who is being operated on by this, top-notch female surgeon who just has a perfect record. And so when the surgery's happening and the soul decides to leave the body, the surgeon is just devastated. And she keeps repeating, he shouldn't have died. He shouldn't have died. I did everything right. This wasn't supposed to happen. And the angel in the movie breaks all the rules and comes into physical form to talk to the surgeon and basically says to her, hey, look, there's a lot more going on here than you know about. And there's a deep spiritual wisdom in that statement, in that movie. My conscious logical mind cannot even begin to comprehend the world I'm living in and the way things have unfolded throughout my life. And it is just a game people play when they decide to create a meaning or decide for themselves what this means or why that happened, etc. And the bottom line is, we don't know. I read something recently where somebody was talking about how brutal it can be for some people when they have a difficulty happen in their life, and a well-intentioned person comes along and says, well, everything happens for a reason, and that can be just very, very intense and difficult, because even the people who say, oh, I know why this happened, they're just making it up. And even if they can see a whole series of coincidences that led to some of the best things in their life today, they're just seeing a tiny fraction of everything that's going on. This is why the core of this work, from the Kabur's manuscript to some degree, but definitely from the Course in Miracles, where it says, open a curtain in your practicing and cancel everything you think you want, your trifling treasures put away, and leave a clean and open space for life to unfold or for the Christ mind to come. So rather than telling people these days, and I've done a lot of that in my life, well, everything happens for a reason or whatever, little toss-off phrases. But these days, rather than say everything happens for a reason, I talk about, in the bottom line observations I give, I talk about how what happens to me and around me in my life is nowhere near as important as how I choose to interpret it and then choose to respond. So rather than telling people these days, well, it's all going to be okay, it all happens for a reason, I instead talk about, okay, this has happened, this is very difficult for you to deal with, this is not what you wanted. How can we help you make the best of this? How can we help you choose an interpretation and a response that will, at a minimum, avoid adding insult to injury or pain or suffering to pain? So the I don't know mind that Byron Katie talks about is a really good starting place for me. I don't know. Why did that happen? I have no idea. What does it mean? I don't know. Routinely on this show, it might happen yesterday or the day before, somebody called and they asked a question. I don't know. Where did this all begin? Why did we get so off track? I don't know. And yet, I have learned that how I choose to interpret my experience of that event and how I choose to respond to it is critically important to its impact on me. So that's what we're offering. We're offering a situation that helps us as individuals, a set of tools that help us as individuals tap into anything that's happening with us that leaves us feeling an emotion we don't like, an upset that we'd rather not have, and find a way to interpret and respond to that situation that, at a minimum, avoids adding suffering to pain, and at best helps us have a direct experience of the miracle of life that we've been given access to. I just flashed on a whole series of talks that Guy Finley would give, where he would talk about sailors and boats, and basically the essence of the story, time and again, is that when the storm comes up, the sailor falls asleep, and the suffering is happening because the sailor's asleep. And when the sailor, and the hero in the story, when the sailor wakes up, the storm disappears, or the impact of the storm is mitigated. And then the person watching this says, well, how did this happen? What's the miracle? And basically the answer is, I just woke up. I just chose to see the situation differently. I refused to be driven by the energies that got stirred up in me. Guy Finley is always using the storm, the external storm of the sea, as the metaphor for the storm inside us. And he tells a story about an old prospector and his donkey or his mule walking through a gulch, and there's a park ranger up at the high part of the ridge, and he gets very upset because he sees a storm coming on the other side of the gulch, and he says, that prospector should know better, because this is going to be a flash flood and he's going to get washed away. And as the park ranger watches, this wall of water comes rushing at the prospector, who's just plodding along with his head down, and all of the dust and dirt's flying off the mule as they step, because they've been out there for weeks, and right before the wall of water hits them, the prospector looks up and says something the park ranger can't hear, and as he does, it's just like the miracle of the Red Sea. The water parts and rushes around them, leaving the prospector and his donkey completely unscathed. And this flash flood gushes down the ravine, the gully, the gulch, and when it passes, the park ranger gets down there as fast as he can, catches up to the prospector and says, what the heck just happened here? That was a miracle. What did you say? And the prospector says, well, nothing. I just looked up and saw this, torrent coming at me, and I just said, please go on without me. And the park ranger was dumbfounded. He said, what do you mean, please go on without me? And he said, well, I just decided not to get all swept up in this nonsense. And the park ranger looked around in awe and realized that what had happened when this flash flood came through was it washed all of this dirt away. There were gems, diamonds, gold chunks all around the prospector and his donkey that had been hidden by the dust and dirt until the storm came through. The message in that story is that if I refuse to get swept away by my negative emotional states, if I refuse to blame them on other people, if I step into the use of the tools, gems, gifts, revelations, transformations are there for my experience. And every time I've, had a significant situation where there's upset and I've applied the tools, that's essentially the experience I've had. That I'm amazed at what was sitting inside me, what I was holding on to as conclusions and beliefs and goals that I wasn't even aware of, that was generating all of this upset. And once I become aware of it significantly to its depth, it loses its power over me. And it's amazingly simple. It's far more simple than my conscious logical mind wants to admit, because my conscious logical mind always wants to figure it out and try and understand it and make sense of it. And it won't. It's like the message from the City of Angels movie. There's too much more going on here that I don't even know about. So I can make up a story to help make sense of my life or how this happened or why this happened, but it's just a story I make up, like a bedtime story I make up to a kid to help the kid feel better about a rough day. But it doesn't mean that's what's really happening. I don't need to understand all of this. As a matter of fact, my conscious logical mind is not capable of understanding all of this. I mean, pick one thing in your life. This is why the Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery both have an exercise where they have us pick something up, hold it in your hand, and just take 5 or 10 minutes several times a day in doing this. Pick up the mug that's sitting there with water beside you and just look at it and understand. Let yourself realize you don't know where this came from. You don't know who was the first person that had an idea for a cup or a container with a handle, or the ceramics, or the paint, or the glaze. You don't know how any of that began. And yet, you live your life using it with this phony belief that you understand that and that it makes sense. At a surface level, there's a little story there that makes sense for you, but you don't know what anything truly is, where it's from, or what it's for, or what it needs. And then you can extend that to any person in your life. In the Way of Mastery exercise, it says, over and over again, it says, I don't know what my brother or sister needs in any given situation. I make guesses. If I'm a really sensitive person, I try harder at that than some other people. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know what brought this person to this situation. I don't know what baggage they carry. I don't know what gifts they have. So if I step back into the I don't know mind and I release that conditioned response that says, figure it out, crunch it all down into a few bits or words or statements that you can make sense of, and just allow the day to unfold and ask, how you can be a blessing in this situation, or ask to be shown, what is this for? What's mine to do here? How can I help? What does my brother or sister need? If I live in that questioning space without insisting on an answer, I'll have an entirely different experience of life. And that's what we're here to try and help ourselves and others get ushered into. An experience of life that is beyond words. and that can't be crunched down into what Michael Rice would call something the 9-bit mind can comprehend. And if I just keep coming back to the simple observation that if I'm having a negative emotion or a negative thought, I can instantly know 3 things. This is a lie, or it's based on a falsehood. This is not about what's going on in this moment. This is about something from the past that's getting resonated, or a tape that's playing in my mind from the past. And if I take an action based on that, I'm just going to make my situation worse. I'm not going to improve. I can't improve my life situation by pouring negative emotional energy into what's happening in the moment. Can't happen. So if I begin there and then start applying the tools, I start removing the traumas and the energies and the false beliefs that are blocking me from having that direct experience of my life as the flow of creative energy expressing in form. That goes beyond words in a heartbeat. I had some hopes and desires for something in a relationship, basically in a relationship with my father. It was playing out in a relationship with an adult in my life, but it was for my father to have connected with me in a different way. And he just wasn't able to do that. And I can see that now. As a psychologist, I can see that, and I can understand it intellectually in various ways. And yet, it still sat in me as a sadness or a sense of loss until I started doing some work around it and figuring out what my goal was and canceling that goal and asking to be shown and starting to see that what I wanted, what I thought I wanted as a child, was something that my father was not able to give in the way that I wanted it. And yet, he was giving a lot of the very thing I was hoping for in ways that were not exactly the way I was looking for it. And when I started to tap into that and the deep sadness that went with that realization that he just wasn't capable of giving me what I wanted at the time in the way I wanted it. And then I looked at and I felt, and with each worksheet I did where I canceled the goal and got in touch with that younger part of myself that was so upset, I began to understand the deeper pain. I feel the deeper pain, and then as I released it, I got to see other things. The other day I was doing that, and I came into this realization that even though it never matched what I had wanted in terms of what my mind could describe, that my father would meet me at this explicit level to discuss this intimate connection about grief and loss and love, and he was just not capable of doing it. And yet, the more worksheets I did to dismantle the sadness around that, the more my mind showed me how many different ways we were connected and that he did reach out to me when he could, in the ways he could. And as I kept cycling back through that and canceling the goals in the worksheet, I realized that, just like that line from the City of Angels movie, there's a lot more going on, always was a lot more going on in my dad's life and my life than I could ever realize. And at levels I could never have imagined, it's all been okay. Not what I would have wanted, not what my culture or my family might have conditioned me to believe should happen or that I needed to have happen, and yet it's been beyond words good It's been beyond words intense at times, and it's been beyond words expansive, enriching, joyful. And so rather than make up a story about how it all happened for a reason, I'm contenting myself these days with choosing interpretations and responses that make it better for me to enjoy the life I have, that refuse to add suffering to the discomfort that's an inherent part of the life that I have. So, 563-999-3581. If you have a comment or a question, give us a call. Press 1. We have 17 minutes left before the second hour of the show, and I feel like I've talked enough. So what's your comment? What's your question? What's your hope for the future? What's your understanding of what I've already expressed? Or a specific question about anything I've already talked about. 563-999-3581 and press 1. I just realized as I said that the sense of urgency that I've had at different times to get things to change in my life today, because of some of those goals that I have held over time from my father, the goals that I've held over time from my father that never got met have been a part of my mind energy creating a sense of urgency, this feeling of a pressure that I have to get things to change. And, things in my life today to change, or things in my relationships with other people today to change. And the more I do that work, the more I wake up and realize that urgency to get things to change just isn't there. It's like the difference between a thought about a chocolate ice cream cone, just a passing thought about one, and a craving for one. I used to have this craving for things to be different in some of my present-day relationships with other adults in my life. And the more I did the work and kept realizing that it would go back to wanting something from my father he couldn't give me, and looking at that and doing those worksheets, the more it deflated or diffused the sense of urgency for change in present-day relationships with others. I suppose it probably goes in line with the idea that when you are sitting in the realization that you're whole and complete the way you are, and that everything as it's unfolding is okay even if you can't figure out how, then when you look out at the world, it doesn't create as much of a sense of urgency for things to change. There's an ease of recognizing that even though I can't put words on it, it's all okay. Welcome, Susan.
Hi, Dr. Tim. You are on a subject that I've thought about so much, and it dovetails for me with what you read from Glennon Doyle yesterday and something Michael Rice said ages ago about how one's sexual orientation, in the case of what Michael might define as not the norm or maybe not healthy, is the result of trauma. And now I'll backtrack to what you're saying about the worksheets you've done, whenever I've wanted the attention and affection or wanted a relationship with someone in a certain kind of urgent way, the worksheets help me realize that probably this person, for me, has some matching bags of garbage, and I want this relationship to be successful so that I can correct something that wasn't ideal in my relationship with my mother. And the worksheets have allowed me just to step 1 inch back. As you were saying, it takes some of the urgency out of it or the intensity out of it to have a look at why I care about this so much. And I learn several things. What I feel, usually it's the appeal of the other person has to do with goals I had for my relationship with my mother. This person has characteristics. Some of them aren't even obvious at all, but I come to find out that the person has characteristics that my mother had, which made them, invariably made them unattainable in some way, complicated in some way, personality-wise, a person who had a level of personal pain that might not even be manifesting particularly, but that I sensed, and my urgent wish to heal that person or comfort or fix that person becomes an element in creating the intensity. It's been really fun to look at, because as soon as I do a worksheet on that, I end up in the same place as this is a rerun of an old film. The person who is in front of me may or may not be who I am creating them to be for my own purposes. And I choose a person who will not choose to be with me in the sickest, most unhealthy scenarios. It's a person who will show me once again the unsatisfying and painful elements in my relationship with my mother. Once that has been put out there, there is a kind of dissolving or dissipating of the intensity, so I can have a better look at the person and decide whether, in fact, this is a candidate for a friendship. It puts me into my healthy mind so that I can make some decisions. And I just love that you're talking about this, because this has been an ongoing healing, and there's been a lot of healing in this area. But I do think in my case, the fact that my mother and I are the same gender, the intensity of relationships made me wonder if I was gay. And if I were, my choice of gay relationships wouldn't be very healthy, because they were based on trying to fix something. And so I am in awe and deep appreciation of gay people, or whatever they are, to find partners within their realm of attraction that are healthy. And I admire them because they have found a way of having a healthy, in my case, same-sex relationship. I think that's one of the reasons I admire them so much, is you did it. You found the love of your life, and it wasn't an unhealthy relationship. And I don't even know where I'm going with this, except what you've been saying has just triggered so many thoughts about all this. So I'll stop there and see if there's anything you'd like to respond to.
Well, I think what you're saying resonates for me simply in terms of the healthy relationship connection, and it's completely separate from the sexuality. So
Yeah.
It. What you're talking about when in this last part where you said that you feel gratitude or joy for them because they've found healthy relationship connection, and that's wonderful because that's what you've been craving, is this healthy relationship connection.
Mm.
And what you've discovered at some level is that a lot of the not so healthy relationship connection that you've been pursuing was rooted in the unsatisfactory or the lack of goals getting met in your relationships with your mom. And so that takes us right back to the root of this work, which is, okay, I have this goal, and the goal I'm holding that's not getting met is in some way getting my mind to load up a whole bunch of things that are not productive and blocking me from seeing how to achieve my goals lovingly, respectfully, gently. So when I cancel those goals and I do the excavating of the traumas and the false beliefs and the stuck points within me, then I see them more clearly. And once I see them more clearly, they lose their ability to drive my behavior today, and I get access to a whole new set of potential responses.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully one of them will lead sooner rather than later to that healthy relationship and connection and gratification that I'm hopeful for.
Mm-hmm. You said a really interesting thing about how for you there's a separation between the relationship intensity and sexuality, so it may or may not be connected. With me, I think I've confused intensity of feeling with sexual feelings. So that's still something I would like to explore. For instance, I've often said to myself, if I ever have a new friend, I have some friends from the past, and somehow we found our way to being healthy, happy, good, loyal friends. But I often have wished I want an absolutely best friend here in Allentown where I live. And I haven't found that person to go into that slot. And I think one reason it hasn't gone into that slot is because I associate caring for a friend that much with a kind of sexual or psychosexual, there's a confusion there. I think there has to have some element of attraction so that I would want to hold them or kiss them or comfort them, which goes back to the unhealthy wish for a good relationship with my mother, which wasn't motivated by sexuality at all. So I got off a track somewhere in there. And I don't even expect you to understand what I'm saying, but it's just something that isn't fitting right for me. I don't know, in other words, if I could have a really close female friend without feeling some sort of physical attraction to her, maybe not sexual, but just a physical attraction as part of it.
Well, are you leaving that as a question for me to answer? Do you wonder if you could have a really close friend without any physical attraction?
Yeah, I don't even know if I want one either. I just think
well,
for me yeah.
I would offer that it isn't necessary. It isn't even recommended. That's like trying to create your life in a very limited way based on some, arbitrary rules. And so, I just got the image of myself with my very limited artistic ability and a great big pad of paper and an endless number of pencils, but they're all just regular carbon pencils, and I'm just drawing out the stick drawings.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of life is nothing compared to those stick drawings. So if I say to myself, what I really want is this, this, and this. I want a friendship where we feel really close, but I've got no sexual attraction, and I don't even think they're attractive physically, but I have this and I have that, and then other people. What am I doing? I'm using that conscious, logical 9-bit mind to try to approximate something that is hundreds of trillions of data points constantly being processed and flowing. And I have that 9-bit mind. The actuality of life is so much bigger, juicier, fuller than any thoughts or words I would have about it. So, my thing is just keep using the tools and quit trying to say, I want a relationship that is this, 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 and this, because the truth of you as a person goes beyond any of those labels. The truth of the other person goes beyond any of those labels. And the potential for the energy exchange that we call relationship, going beyond all of that, each new heartbeat, is guaranteed. It's a guaranteed thing. The truth of your life and your friendships and your relationships is going to be so much more than anything you map out when you start saying, well, I would like a relationship that does this, 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 and this. So the more you get rid of the negative emotional states that block you from being in joy and aliveness and connection with somebody, just because you're just using the tools, not because you're planning it out, the more you open yourself to an experience of relationship that goes way beyond anything you could have imagined each new heartbeat. So I hope that was somewhat useful, because we're out of time, and it's time to get ready to hand the show over to Michael and Jeannie. And as always, I thank you for chiming here in the last 15 or 20 minutes, and I look forward to the next time we connect. Blessings.
Thanks, Dr. Tim. Thanks.
And I will remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. Appreciate you.
Have a great show.
Thank you.